Have you ever had a prayer that God didn't seem to answer? What are we to make of this? We're going to look at this today. Many people suffer disappointment in prayer. I remember praying for a circumstance in which I felt I really needed God's help, and I prayed passionately and consistently for 2 years, and the situation only seemed to get worse. I ended up questioning whether God was even hearing my prayers, and it was a painful experience. What was going on? Well, a really useful illustration for understanding how God answers prayer is to think of a set of traffic lights. Like the green, orange and red of the traffic lights, God sometimes says yes, sometimes wait, and sometimes no. The real issue here is that we don't like it when God says wait and no. My children regularly ask me for lollies, and I quite regularly say no to their request. Does this mean I'm an unloving parent? Well, no, because my perspective is bigger than theirs, isn't it? I can see the rotting teeth they might have at 30, the bad behaviour they might have in just 15 minutes when the sugar rush kicks in, and maybe the weight problems they could have later in life if they get into bad habits. So even though they may not understand, I say no because I love them. And this is exactly what it is like with God. His perspective is indescribably greater than ours, and He loves us. So here I am in my trouble, suffering emotionally, because it seems God isn't answering my prayers when in actual fact He had. I eventually reached the end of that journey I mentioned earlier, and it was then that I saw how God had used those experiences to grow my faith in Him and my ability to persevere. And then God started answering a whole stack of prayers again very quickly, and I ended up in a circumstance where I needed to be able to persevere. And I believe I was only able to do so because of what God had done. In Matthew 7:7, Jesus says, "Which of you, if his son asks for bread, would give him a stone? Or if he asked for a fish to eat, would give him a snake? If you then, even though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask Him?" God answers our prayers. It's just that He doesn't always do so in the way we want. And so the challenge in prayer is not only to pray boldly, but to trust that when God isn't answering as we want, He's doing it for our best. But there are some exceptions, because the Bible does say there are some things that can block our prayers. For example, in Matthew 6:14, Jesus explains how a lack of forgiveness toward others can block our prayers. In James 4:3, it explains how prayer will not be answered when we pray with the wrong motive, like, "I'd like a new Lamborghini, please." James 1:7 says our prayers will not be answered if we pray but do not believe, because faith in God and His character is vital to prayer. In James 1:22 onwards, it talks about the importance of actions that match faith. For example, if I prayed for a new car our family needed, but didn't go start looking for one, what kind of faith is that? A car isn't going to magically drop out of the sky and land on my doorstep, right? So I need to work with God and pray and then go look for one. In 1 Peter 3, it explains also how sin can sometimes hinder our prayers. Peter warns husbands who are not treating their wives with respect to correct their behaviour, because it might hinder their prayers. A similar example is found in 2 Samuel 21, where God stopped answering Israel's prayers for rain so that they would seek Him, so He could point out their mistreatment of a people group He expected them to look after, so an injustice they were responsible for could be corrected. In Hebrews 4:16, it talks about the dangers of a lack of confidence when approaching God in prayer, because we may actually fail to ask for things we need because we lack confidence to do so. So, what do we do when God doesn't seem to answer our prayers? We examine our hearts to see if there's anything in us that could be a cause for an unanswered prayer, and then we choose to trust God. Because sometimes He says yes, sometimes He says wait, and sometimes He says no. Because He sees a picture of things that is so much bigger than we can see. And like a loving parent, He's always working for our best.